Hello and welcome back. If like me you build dioramas, vignettes or bases for your models, you probably buy some pre-made components from vendors. There is a myriad of items available these days, and it's worth considering that one way to vastly improve your completed piece is to spend some time to improve those pre-made items that we all buy. So let's take a look at that in more detail in this video as we deep dive into improving components. To demonstrate why it's a great idea to improve individual components, I'm going to use two palms which I purchased to use in a North Africa diorama that I'm currently building. So these palms are perfectly in scale, built from high quality components, and they really look great. But to the keen eye, the trunk colour is not quite correct and the fronds are glossy in appearance, which are totally out of step with real palms. Many modelers would probably be happy with this representation, but we can do better with them. Most African palm species have a strong red-brown colouring to their trunks, and most definitely the foliage is much more matte in its appearance than these are, especially if they're in a dusty, sandy environment. The second palm, a much larger species, also needs colour adjustment to the trunk and some changes to the foliage. Now we have a little to-do list in order to improve these palms. Let's take them to the next level. The first step here is to reset the underlying colour tones. As you can see, there is a dramatic contrast applied, and these palms would not have such a strong difference in real life. Certainly not in this manner anyway. Overspraying in light or mid-grey will now reset the colour tones. Because I'm going to rely on my airbrush to apply the new colours, the underlying colours and tones will significantly impact the top layers. Grey is the perfect colour to use. White would be too stark and would in fact require many layers to be effective. Black will dominate this change too much and will not allow subtle shade and shadow variation. So grey as a cool neutral colour will reset the palette and allow the dark shadow colours to show through just enough. After fully covering the trunk, we need to move into hand painting the darker mid-tones over the shadow areas. This will neutralise the black base that's still coming through far too intensely for my liking. Once dry, I then spray on the top coat. Now you'll notice that it's a much brighter reddish brown than was previously used. I personally relate it to the bark colour of red hardwoods. I'm spraying this coat just heavily enough that I get full cover and a soft opacity where the underlying grey coat allows subtle light and shadow changes. So using the smaller palm now, just to prove the same technique works for both palms, I use my dry brush applicator to apply highlights on the raised surfaces. Look, dry brushing is an older technique, but it really does have a place in current modelling. I can then move over to applying oils for all the really subtle variations in the plant colour and shading. You'll notice that I'm applying a dark red-brown oil onto the areas that were previously black. By doing this, I'm shifting the shadow tone away from black to brown, which improves the overall realism of this piece. When painting plants, we need to remember that black and white do not exist in nature to the extent that we would like to use them. These palms will be used in a North African desert diorama, where light is strong and does not allow shadows to look black, or tone shifted towards black. On top of all of that, the lower sections of the trunks will have sand blown into them, as happens in nature. When I integrate these palms into the diorama for which they're being built, I will use dry pigments to add some sandy dust all over the lower sections of the trunks. The last step is the foliage. After spraying some matte, mid and dark green acrylic paints over the palm fronds, I now use a very thin wash of the same oil paint I used on the trunk to add dirty highlights. Adding wash alongside the central vein highlights that raised area. I also target many of the fingers of the foliage along the edges. This tricks our eyes into seeing details that don't actually exist. These final images show two palms that now colour match North African palm species and have a more realistic matte appearance with lots of subtle colour variation. I think you'd say a significant improvement over the original item. Certainly not all components that you buy are going to require this degree of modification. Carefully choosing items that add genuine substance to your dioramas, vignettes and bases is the key. If they require subtle or even significant improvement, well, have a go at it, as the reward is certainly worth the effort, especially if you want to go to the next level. And I'd just like to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys, you're what help keep this channel running. Legends. And thank you once again for watching, and guys, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe buttons, man, smash them now. They really do help the channel, they certainly help promote my videos. Hope to see you again in the next video very soon.